Today I'm going to quickly try to go over how to set up and use the Lee Safety Powder Scale. The Lee Safety Powder Scale is an inexpensive beam scale, and if you look, this is the kind of box that it comes in. I bought mine for $19.99 several years ago. I'm not even sure, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I bought it at a pawn shop of all places before I ever even reloaded, because I figured if I ever did reload I would need a scale. Now this particular scale, some people hate it, some people love it, some people are somewhere in the middle. Usually you're in one of two camps. I've had reloaders curse this thing, say it's a piece of junk, tell me it's garbage, tell me it's a perpetual motion machine, tell me that you can't ever get it to work consistently and that it's too hard to work with. I am not of that opinion. I actually love this little scale. Now, I have two other digital scales. This scale, another beam scale that is old and messed up. It's an old Lyman scale that is actually, I bought it used and it's not right. So I can't weigh this against that one, but I have checked this one against a couple of different digital scales, and this thing's dead on. So let's get into this real quick, okay? If you can look right here, you will see basically this thing's zeroed right now. Now it's very touchy. When I walk in or out of the room, it'll move slightly. If it's not on a level surface, it will not give you a correct reading. Okay, I don't have the actual instructions because I bought it from a pawn shop. I never got them, but I have read the real instructions online, and one of the first things it says is to level your scale, and most all beam scales are supposed to be level as far as I know. Now how do you do that? That's the first step, but how do you do that? Well, let me show you how I do it, okay? Let me check real quick. I'm going to get down at eyeball level. Yeah, that's zeroed real well. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera just slightly. I don't have a lot of room in here, so let me just see if I can move this just slightly. There we go. And show you what I do. Okay, now I used to take this little level, little bubble level, and look for a spot on my bench that was level. And there was a spot over on the side, outside the camera view, that I marked lines on, and I measured it several times, and it was like the perfect spot. Problem is, that was never the perfect spot for the way my bench was set up. Now, what I've done since then, let me just show you. Take this off of here. Since then, I made this little wooden thing. And what is this? This is just a flat piece of wood with 4 little screws in it that are the same size. Okay? And they're not even that straight. They're relatively straight, but they are not that straight. They don't need to be that straight. What they need to be is adjustable. Because wherever I put this on my bench now, I touch it, I see if it's relatively flat and straight, and this it is right here in this spot. It has just a tiny little bit of movement. But here's the key. I take my bubble level, I center it on the piece of wood, and I look, and I see, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but that's level. It's centered, okay? So now I know, and I can move this around anywhere, and some places on the bench when I move it, it's not level anymore. So I take this, and I adjust one of the 4 screws, or 2 of the 4 screws, or whatever I need to do to bring it back to being level. And once I know it's level, then I take my scale, place it back where it goes, make sure that the blade is in the little slot right here correctly, kind of center it, go like this, move it up and down slightly, just lightly. It should pivot on the little blade. There's a blade inside there, almost like a little razor blade looking thing. It should pivot on that. Okay, And it does. Now, if you look right there, that little slot is the pivot point. It's basically a fulcrum for this. There you go. That's correctly put together. Then the pan, the scale pan, slides on like that. Now, it may not go back to zero again because I've been banging it around and moving it and clunking it. And the thing is, it has a spring-loaded shaft in here that is for the fine zero adjustment. Okay, this is not a complex piece of equipment, but you have to know how to use it to get it to work correctly. And look, I know this video is going to be twice as long as I want it to be, but I want to be thorough. So let's see, is it not going back to zero? It's not, and that's okay. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, you take your poise, this little ball right here, and you make sure it's on zero. And over here, you have tenths of a grain and a little lock right there, a little plastic thing. You push that out and slide it. Okay, these little tiny lines right here are tenths of a grain, and these big numbers on the bottom are whole grains. Okay, so you want to get this zero, big zero, because you want 0 grains, and then the tenths of a grain, you want a 1 and a 0 and a 9, because you want it centered on the 0. And that's the way the tenths of the grain measurement on this scale works. Then you push the little button back in to hold this sliding piece in place. Make sure you go back to 0. Make sure that the fulcrum's on correctly. Put your pan on. Let it level out. And if you want, you can touch it to slow it down, which I know some people get annoyed with it bouncing back and forth, and then it'll stop over here and go like this, and it'll keep doing it. And people get all freaked out, like it's doing right now. No big deal. You just grab it lightly and roll. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. You roll. This is basically a floating weight. It's spring-loaded, and it's a threaded rod. Sorry, it wasn't in there. It wasn't in the viewfinder. Sorry about that. You roll this piece to the right, it makes more weight go that way. To the left, it makes more weight go that way. This is your fine zero adjustment. You want to put it back. Roll it whichever way it needs to go. And if it goes over the 0 here, then you'll back it off a little bit. But the most important thing is to start with it level. Okay? Alright, now I'm going to give this just a touch, because I don't even know, since I was filming, if I don't even know if I did do any zero adjustment when I was showing you how to do the zero adjustment. And again, it's not that difficult, but you have to just pay attention. Now that is just about perfect. And you really, if you are up above it looking down, it's not going to look the same as it does at eye level. You need to get down at eye level and look at it. And I've seen guys build something similar to this little wooden thing, only it's a platform like this high. It's a platform 6 or 7 inches tall or 4 inches tall, just because it gets raised up on their bench so it's easier for them to get to eye level. Okay, now what's going to happen here is I'm going to move this when I reload, and I'm going to have to re-level it again to make sure it's okay. Okay, but that's what you do. You get it zeroed, then you're ready to make your adjustments. Now, last thing quickly, how do I set my scale? Once I have it zeroed, and it consistently stays so that the pointer is pointing towards the silver, which on my particular bar here, I painted this little white pointer onto it. This is black when you buy it. And I had a hard time seeing where the end of the black pointer was pointing to this little silver pointer, so I painted it white. I don't remember if I used nail polish. I probably did, because I always have a couple different nail polishes around in here for painting gun sights and stuff. But here's the thing. You take your poise. If you wanted 25 grains, okay, you're going to, these are your 10 increments of grains. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, up to 100. Okay, so if you wanted 25, you set your ball poise on 20. You come back over here to push the little button again. Slide this over to the whole number of grains, the big number in the box, of 5. Now your tenths of a grain up here, you see it getting close. Your tenths of a grain up here is that little number on the top. You want to be on a 0 and a 1 and a 9 again, because that's how you get to a whole number. Okay, so now, let me just look at that. That's just about perfect for 20. Okay, get the ball on 20 and 5. So that would be 25 grains. Now I don't have a load that I'm going to make with 25 grains, but that's how you would work it. Okay, and then when you fill this with powder, it would slowly come up, and then boom, right at 25, it would level out. Now, same exact thing is true if you wanted 56.5 grains, okay? You'd move the ball over to the 50 poise, and then you'd take your slider, push the little button again, slide it over to 6. Now this time, if we want 56.5, we're going to go to the 6, so it's on the 0. Now we're at 56. Now we're going to go to our tenths up here in this little area, slide it over slightly, till it gets to 5. And you want a small line on either side of the tenths of a grain. So to get to 56.5, this grain pointer should be about halfway between the 6 and the 7, because we're at 0.5, and it is. And when you look at the tenths, hopefully you can see this. 5 is the solid white line in the middle, and there's a line, light line on 6 and a light line on 4. That means we're at 0.5 grains. So our tenths of a grain is at 5/10ths of a grain. Our whole grains is at 6, and our large tens is at 50. So this is 56.5 grains. And if this is set up correctly, and you set up digital scales next to it, and throw the same charge from this pan into those ones, you will see this thing is very, very accurate. Now, there's guys who will bang into it, reset it, and then complain that it, well, you know, was 3/10ths off or whatever. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't go smashing into it. It's a little, you know, ball on a plastic thing with a spring-loaded adjustment right here that is very easy to get knocked out. The other thing is, these kind of scales change slightly with temperature and humidity. I'm sure altitude would even affect it. So, you know, you got to just be careful. Always start with a scale that's zeroed. Always start with a scale that's leveled. And try not to bang into the thing, and you should be okay. Now look, I'm sure there's people out there that say, I have that scale, I'll send it to you for free, I hate it, it's a piece of junk. Well, that's fine. If you feel that way, that's totally, you know, your business, your deal. That's good for you. All I know is I've had really good luck with the scale. Do I get annoyed sometimes when I bang into it? Yeah, I got annoyed. Not too long ago, I was in the middle of working up a load, and I was using this trickler. And this trickler can be raised up and down, and actually I love this trickler, and I'm going to do a separate video on just the trickler. But for whatever reason, every time I went to go pull the pan on or off, I'd bang into this thing somehow. And I'd bang the pan into the trickler, and then little flakes of powder would fly out of the pan. And it happened 2 or 3 times, and I was like, ah! But you know what it was? It was operator error. Sorry to say, but it was operator error. I was trying to go too fast and trying to jam too many things into a tight spot. I needed to just back this off a little bit, be a little more careful so that I could pull it in, pull it out, you know, and just do it that way. Anyway, if you hate the Lee scale, that's fine. I think it's great. I've used it for thousands and thousands of rounds, pistols, rifles, several different calibers, probably 10 different kinds of powder, and I really like it. I think it's a good scale. It's inexpensive. It's pretty robust for what it is. I mean, yeah, is it sort of cheap? Yeah, but it does the job, and it's accurate if you use it correctly. Thank you again for watching. I hope this helps somebody to understand how to use the scale, how to set the poise, how to level it, all that stuff. I appreciate your time. Good luck reloading, and thank you for watching.